Paul. It's
Right.
She's more of a midfielder slash number 10 sort of. I think that's the way she plays.
Yeah.
She's actually funny enough the brother of the Chelsea captain and the men's team, Reece James. So it's unbelievable to have two players representing their countries, brother and sister. But it's going to be she's a huge loss in the game against
Colombia.
Colombia,
And this game
yeah.
as well.
And this game as well, because she's out for she was really looking on that to get suspended for more games, but she's out now for this game. England, they haven't been, as I said, they haven't been convincing. They were very lucky, as I said, against Nigeria. Didn't really hit the heights other than the China game, but China I thought were poor, to be honest.
Yeah.
They know themselves that they can play much better than this. Colombia, when England went 2-1 up, I find England became very defensive, and I think Colombia, if it was going to be a goal, Colombia were going to get the equaliser. But I think Colombia just ran out of steam.
No, can I cut across you there, Noel? You say they haven't played well, but look, England, the draw was admitted. When the tournament started, the draw was laid out. Many people were saying you're going to be an England-US final. When the US were knocked out, England and are favourites. So there's no doubt about that. So maybe now is the time for them in the semi-finals to start producing the goods. There's no good playing brilliantly early on, because you won't keep it going throughout the month. So maybe now is the time, and maybe being now considered favourites, is that maybe slightly inhibiting them?
Yeah, maybe, Paul, but you know yourself from watching England's men's team that pressure does get to them sometimes, and and to be fair to the women, they had the biggest pressure of all, like having a Wembley final against Germany in last year in the European Championships, and they managed to overcome that. Chloe Kelly got the goal in extra time and won the game. Now, many people might say Germany at least deserved to get to at least a penalty shootout in that game, because I think for a lot of the game I thought Germany did it quite well and probably edged it a little bit. But this is going to be massive, Paul. This is probably the biggest. I think it's the most high-profile women's football match I've seen in other than maybe the final itself, maybe 4 years ago. But in terms of interest, Australia, England, in Australia, massive Aussie crowd. On paper, Paul, I know games aren't on the paper. England have the better side.
Yeah, but no, if you go back to the Australia-France game, France are a serious team as well. There would be, if France were playing England, to be a very close game too. I know France probably shaded in normal time, but Australia really hung in there to create a few chances. We do know their captain is not fit. She's only coming on with 20 minutes to go. Sam Kerr, she's always, and then of course that's another connection. A number of the Australian players are playing with English clubs, but she's not fit. It's obvious she's not fit. She's coming on, the coach is bringing her on with 15, 20 minutes to go. Even when she's on, she's lacking that yard of pace. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to know that she's not fully fit. Against France, she got a half a chance, but she couldn't get clear and get her shot out. So so what
she had a calf
injury. She's bringing her on with 10 minutes to go, 15 minutes to go.
Yeah, she's had a calf injury. She hasn't been really just shaken up. I think she came on a little bit earlier though in 20 minutes in the game against France. But besides that, but she hasn't scored yet, and she's not. Obviously, she's not match fit. She might be
not match fit. That's what I mean to say.
She's not match fit. She might be able to pass the fitness tests and be good enough to get on the bench, but she's not. She's clearly not match fit. She hadn't played either group games, and I think she only came on against Denmark, if I'm not mistaken. So she's only coming up to speed now, and that would be the worry for Australia, that if they had a fit Sam Kerr starting, I think I would give them a really good chance. No, am I basing on what I've seen so far? I think Australia playing the better football. Now, I know obviously the home crowd and the hosts, and I totally get that. But I feel Australia have played the better football so far in this tournament. But I think there's still another kick in England.
Yeah.
But I just have a funny feeling Australia might do it. No, Arnold, the goalkeeper for Australia, I think is going to have to be on form again, like she was against France. And
but I'll come back. Sorry, no, just cutting across you. I mentioned about the Swedish goalkeeper being top class. The Australian goalkeeper is really playing well in my book. She's really spreading confidence and calm throughout the team, and I think she's a top class keeper. And I think this is a huge advantage again to have, particularly in soccer, the small scoring zone. It's a huge advantage, and we have to talk about the crowd. And again, Noel, I mentioned him on the first podcast we did on the World Cup. Australia is a great sporting nation. And once they get down to the knockout stages, the Australians have this natural confidence. Sometimes it borders on arrogance, but they have this natural confidence. So they won't be afraid of it. And the whole of Australia is behind them now. As we know, I think they will feed off that. Some teams that might inhibit them, but I think Australia, they have this mentality. They'll actually feed off that. They'll feed off the crowd. And it really, the crowd are always, to use a term, a 12th player, was it, or what your thoughts on that?
Yeah. Oh, definitely, Paul. This is, like Australia are getting really, really behind. They call them the Matildas is their nicknames, and I think they're getting really, really behind them. I think this is probably opened up football to Australia in terms of because the men's team have never reached a World Cup semi final. This is the first time ever a men or women's team has reached the World Cup semi final. I know they're hosting it, but this is massive for Australian football, soccer, whatever.
Well, it's called soccer in Australia because obviously they have their own Aussie rules.
They have their own Aussie rules, yeah. But this is massive for women's football, or men's soccer as well in Australia. This is going to be massive. Going to have probably more girls and boys playing football in Australia because as you said, there's the cricket, the rugby union, rugby league, Aussie football, Aussie rules. So I think it's going to be massive. I think it's going to be a massive occasion. I think this is going to be probably the biggest test England have had for a long, long time because even against Colombia, there wasn't many English fans in there because I think Colombia, it was 3-1 really in terms of the crowd. It's going to be monumentally, it's going to be massive support for Australia. Obviously, with a little bit of white and red in the corner for England as well. But I just have a funny feeling Australia might just do it, Paul. I don't know. And I think if Kerr was to get at least 20 minutes to consider herself, she could make a little bit of difference. Even if she's not fit, she'll occupy a defender, and maybe Russ or someone like that could nick in, have a few chances. Because obviously Kerr will be the focus for a lot of English defenders, but then that might take the pressure off the other defenders when other attackers when she comes on. I just feel Australia play good football. They have the crowd behind them. And also, they have a lot of nerve, Paul, to be honest. That penalty shootout went on and on.
Yeah.
They had 2 chances before they actually got the decisive penalty to win it, and they both missed it. Yeah. And then the third time lucky, I think it was 7-6 in the end.
7-6,
7-6 they finished in the end. That takes a lot of battle.
And also, Noel, if you remember, the Australian goalkeeper, Arnold, she saved a French penalty. And next thing, the camera, or not the camera, but the machine, or whatever you call it, whatever happened, she had to face it again. And Jesus, what did she do? But she saved it the second time. I mean, that's amazing. Yes. You might save it once, but by God, to save it a second time, that just shows that you mentioned the word there perfectly. The Australians have this confidence, this nerve, that nothing shakes them. I've seen it in all sports, and that's it's a huge advantage to have.
Oh yeah, big time, Paul. Now, to be fair, on the replay, she was a mile off her line, but I think her 2 feet were off the line when she saved. She saved it, and then she saved it again. But to make an even bigger point, Paul, she stepped up to hit the winning point herself, the winning penalty herself, and hit the post.
Yeah.
So she had to go again. So yeah, it was amazing. I think it was one of the I thought the Sweden USA penalty shootout was dramatic. I think even this one was even better than that one. To be fair, and I think having penalty shootouts like this, having drama like this, adds the interest to the women's football.
I have 2 questions for you. First question, a number of the Australian players play in the English Professional League, including Sam Kerr, the captain. And so will that have an impact that they will know each other? The English will know the Australians. So it's not like all the Australian players are playing in their home country. Will that have an impact in the game?
Well, so they say familiarity breeds contempt. So, so they'll definitely know each other's strengths and weaknesses. And with a lot of the Australian players playing in England, that shows you the quality that they have, because the Women's Super League is one of the best leagues in Europe. I know, obviously, they haven't had a Champions League winner from England for a while now, but there's some very good players playing in England now, and some of them are Australian.
Yeah.
So I think that's definitely a key that shows you the quality of the team. Now, I think whatever league they play, there's a few players I think playing in Australia as well, and other players playing in Europe.
Yeah.
So they have a good mix now, Paul.
Yeah, good mix.
And England have a few players out for them as well.
Yeah.
But a majority of them are playing in England, playing for the top clubs. So I think it's going to be a really, really good game. I think this could be. I mightn't be as open maybe as I had hoped, but I think this has the potential to be a cracker.
No, second question for you. The manager, the Australian manager, we know about Sam Kerr. She's not fully fit, match fit. He seems to be bringing her on, using her almost as a psychological thing to get the crowd riled up. Sometimes maybe 20 minutes to go. If the other team are dominating, if the crowd have gone twice, she might go for a warm-up. Then when she comes on, he brings her on and the whole stadium erupts again. And it's almost like sending an extra boost of energy to the other players. What do you think of that as a tactic? He doesn't bring her on when they're on top. He seems to be able to bring her on when the crowd have gone quiet. And he's almost, even though he knows she's not match fit, that he's bringing her on to G up the crowd and give extra energy to the other players. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I've seen it myself, but I haven't probably seen it as I have due to work. I haven't been able to watch many of Australia's games lately, but I've seen highlights. And every time Sam Kerr touches the ball, but particularly after she's just after coming on, the crowd goes bananas because they know what she can do, what she's capable of. Now, unfortunately, fitness wise and what we discussed earlier on, sadly, she just hasn't been able to get into rhythm.
Yeah, but they're using her as a psychological. The point I'm trying to make is, I love your opinion on it. The manager is trying to use her as a psychological weapon just before they bring her on, to bring her on a specific time, maybe when things have gone quiet, and to use to bring the crowd into the occasion.
Yeah, and I think as I just mentioned earlier on, I think even just the opposition players, they know what Sam Kerr can do. Now, obviously, she's not fully match fit, and there's only so many minutes she can get, she can play, but she will definitely be the focus of the defenders. So, and as I said earlier on, that'll give time now to the other attackers for Australia.
Yeah.
If a player is coming towards me, Sam Kerr particularly is coming through with the ball, automatically the English players are probably going to keep an eye on her. And some other player might then in nicking around the back.
Yeah.
And have a chance, like Russo, or there's a few other. I've just gone blank now on the other Australian. But it's just it's just one of those moments where obviously they know Sam Kerr's very not fully match fish. You come on the second half if that's at all, 20 minutes like I said maybe. And I think it was 0-0 or 1-0 for Australia, 1-0 down. They'll definitely bring her on, I think, because they know what she can do. And to be honest with you, you don't have to be the fittest to tap the ball into the back of the net from a corner or anything like that. You just need to be there. You just need to be there. And Sam Kerr is one of those players. She can sniff out a chance no bother. She's one of the greatest goal scorers in women's football, particularly in the Super League in Australia as well. She's the record goal scorer. So I think they'll definitely bring her on. It's just obviously I don't think either side's going to run away with this match. So if this match is going to be won, I think it's going to be 2-1. 1-0 sort of a type. I don't think it's going to be.
Could this go all the way now to extra time and penalties?
Oh, definitely. This could go all the way, Paul, to be honest with you. With the Australian crowd, I would think if England really up their game, I think they could definitely cause Australia a lot of problems. Alessia Russo got her first goal in the World Cup there. They got the winner against Colombia. She'll be going into this game with a bit more confidence. I think the English midfield needs a little bit of improvement as well. I think the English defence has been solid enough. I think you can see the 2 goals, one from a penalty, one against Colombia, was a cross come short really. So Mary Earps in England has done very well as well. So this could go all the way for the penalties, no problem at all.
And so just before we finish up, the emotion of the penalties and extra time the penalties, could that drain the Australian teams emotionally and psychologically?
I don't know, Paul. I think if they're going into for a second time, I think they know that knowing that they've won the penalty shootout against France will probably give them a lot of confidence. Now, it all depends. It all depends on how their nerve is at that stage. Like if say for example they had an extra time, they've had a few chances to win the game. And they've missed them all. Normally when that happens, the team that hangs on in extra time sometimes goes on to win the penalty shootout. Like Sweden, USA, for example. Sweden hung on basically all game. The US were thinking, how the hell have we not scored? And that gets into your head, particularly when the USA missed their first penalty. I think Sweden missed their penalty first. But I think the penalty right after it repeated blazes over the bar.
That was the one,
that was the one. So I think when you come into it psychologically, when you were saying it there, I think if Australia have had a golden chance to win the match in extra time, in the second half of extra time in particular, and it goes to penalties, that might get onto their heads. And if that does happen, they have to start the penalty shootout well, because if you're going bad in extra time, and you should have, and not necessarily, but you're going well in extra time, but you miss the chances to win it. To get to a final, that's the first time for either team. And I think for either team, we've missed that chance.
Okay, no, so I know we're finishing up now, so I'm going to have to ask you, put a gun to your head as the man says, what you're going to call this game for us.
I have a sneaky feeling Australia might just do it, Paul. Either extra time or penalties, but I just think they might just get over the line. I think England will up their game an awful lot from the quarterfinal and the last 16 in particular. I just have a funny feeling Australia might do. Australia-Sweden final, I think. I hope Australia win, and it's not been anti-English, but I think for the host nation to win
I think it'll be a real boost again to the tournament, and it'll, as I said, Australia is a great sporting nation. And I think, and especially when you're a captain and probably your best player, they know she's not fit. She's not match fit. It's a huge, but it seems that it's kind of that she's been used psychologically. I find it very interesting the manager is using her psychologically, and I think he'll bring her on maybe 15, 20 minutes to go. It'll lift the crowd. I think that will get behind them. I think Australia just might get through it. I wouldn't be surprised if it goes all the way.